Welcome back to another episode of Embracing Magic with me, Steph, and my lovely co-hosts Tony and Lizzie. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, very well.
Amazing. Well, today we're going to be talking about the different types of witches. So we briefly went over the difference between Wiccans and witches in one of our previous episodes, but there are actually lots of different types of witches. So we're going to cover those today, and I think we're going to start with Coven Witch. Is that what we said?
It would be remiss to not start with a coven witch, would it? Because we're in a coven and we probably have a lot of members that are coven witches. I think probably the best definition is just to say this is someone that practices witchcraft as part of a group, being led by someone, maybe like a I don't like the word high priestess, but like ceremonial leader. And they probably don't do a lot else outside of their coven work.
Yeah,
Would you say?
Yeah. So purely just practice within coven meetups and ceremonies, rituals, that sort of thing.
I think as well, like as a new witch, that really helps as well when you're in a coven to to learn from everybody, and that, like you say, like a facilitator almost.
It's like a segue drug, right?
Like, yeah,
to the hard stuff.
hard stuff. Exactly. It's like, here you go, we're going to ease you in. But it's like lovely to have that facilitator to help guide you.
Yeah, I like that that way of looking at it, actually.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of new witches feel a little bit lost on where to start. So I think if you can become part of a coven, then it's a good way to ease into the practice, I think.
Well, it's a bit like this podcast, really, isn't it? I mean, you had that comment the other day from that lovely person who said that they always found witchcraft to be quite inaccessible, and actually just hearing us talk about it in a really kind of like, this is what our lives are like, this is how we practice, we're just normal witches, we're not trying to be mystical with beautiful meditation music in the background, we're actually just having frank conversations, aren't we?
Yeah,
and it's kind of
exactly.
similar with a coven as well, you know, it's where you actually get to practice in a very real way. So it probably is quite a good access point for witchcraft.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, seeing as we've mentioned it, a lot of new witches get called baby witches,
Yes.
which I can't stand personally. Apparently, it is a sign of endearment rather than a term of endearment rather than being sort of like, you're a baby.
You're a baba.
But I prefer the term.
It feels kind of undermining, really, because a lot of
Yeah.
the time, you know, people that are interested in witchcraft have been practicing for ages without even realising they're doing it, you know, with
Yeah.
their baths and their gardening and their making stuff at home and, you know, leaning into the seasons as well. Like most people who are interested in this subject have been incorporating witchcraft in some way. And so I feel like it's kind of a little bit disrespectful to call people baby witches. I really don't like the word.
No, me either. I really can't stand it.
It also feels like a way for people that have been practicing openly for a long time to kind of like undermine people that are, you know, at the beginning of maybe the beginning of their journey. It's like you haven't quite got there yet.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know where it even came from, to be honest.
The internet.
The internet.
The evil internet.
Social media.
That's true, because I was calling myself a baby witch, and I think you said, I think you should say new witch.
Yeah.
Say new witch. And I was like, actually, that's better. But I think that when you start to sort of step into witchcraft, there's a part of you that's like, oh, I am, that sort of sense of, I don't know as much as everyone else. So you're almost undermining yourself with your power as well. So actually to say like, I'm a new witch and I embrace that rather than, oh, I feel small and...
Yeah. I mean, it can be quite overwhelming, I think, when you first come into the practice and you know, there's so much to learn, there's so much to dive into. And then, you know, I guess some people are a little bit more like, well, I know more than you. So
Lots of people are like that.
yeah,
But I
lots
think-
of people are like that.
Also, people at the start of their journey tend to use it as a way to apologise for making mistakes. You know, in a way that they feel like they have to do that. You know, they're kind of like going, oh, you know, I'm a baby witch, so, you know, I might not get it quite right or whatever. And that's absolutely fine. I mean, no one who's practicing witchcraft knows everything.
Yeah,
We're
definitely.
all always learning, always developing, always evolving. And yeah, I just feel like it's not an appropriate term, really. Not that
Yeah.
it's offensive, but I just think that it's...
We're quite hard on ourselves, aren't we? I think we're so like, I want to be perfect. Like, I want to get it right now, immediately. There's like that sort of like, I want to have it all done now perfectly, and just embracing that.
I'm
new.
really bad at that.
Yeah,
I'm
I think I'm
especially
really
with like
bad at
leading workshops. Like I really give myself a hard time when I'm researching and I'm prepping. I just feel so uncomfortable getting stuff wrong, especially because you just don't want to be part of that spreading misinformation.
Yeah,
But
definitely. But also, we are human beings and everyone makes mistakes, and I think it's absolutely fine to even be, you know, at your stage of your journey and still make mistakes or still get things wrong. Same with me. And I think it's a really important thing to recognize that nothing is perfect. Because
It's humbling as well, isn't it? I guess. Keeps you grounded.
Yeah, definitely it does keep you grounded. And I think it's important for people that are just starting out to know that it's absolutely fine to make mistakes and learn and grow, because as we said, I think in the previous episode, you're constantly learning and growing as a witch, aren't you?
And actually, I think probably making mistakes is how you grow. Right, so
Definitely.
like you know, you'll practice something for the first time and you'll be like, well, that didn't quite resonate with me, so I'm going to try and streamline that a bit, or I'm going to try and do this and I'm going to do that, or that doesn't really doesn't align with my my belief system or whatever, you know. So actually the process of making mistakes is how you refine the type of witchcraft that you want to do and the way you want to practice it.
That's 100% agree, because I remember when I was had joined the Coven, and I hadn't done like a spell on my own. It felt really big. It was like, I haven't done a spell by myself. And then I sort of through the Coven and learning. And then when I did a spell on my own and sort of tweaked it and you know, I'd seen a spell that I wanted to do, which was about sort of cutting connections to someone. And I did it all on my own. It felt so powerful. It felt so empowering and so good. And then I was like, right, that really resonates. So I completely agree. I think having that support from the Coven to help you learn as a new witch is so beneficial. It's so amazing.
You've almost done it the other way around. You've gone from Coven to more solitary work.
100%.
Whereas people normally go from solitary work to Coven, you know, because of the stigma around being a witch and being a practicing witchcraft. I think people tend to start with small things like crystals and incense, and you know, they dip their toes in without telling people, and then, you know, joining a Coven is more of at an advanced stage. So it's quite nice to hear it from the other side.
Yeah, that's amazing. It really, really was. I felt so supported and guided as a new witch. You know, it was so helpful, and all the spellcrafting, everything that we do, it's great because I go away then on my own as like a solitary practitioner, and I sort of feel like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm gonna bring to this spell or this ritual, and it's really beautiful.
It spurs you on, I think, as well, to go and learn more outside of the Coven as well. You get ideas from different witches within the Coven. I think that's a really nice thing. Anyway, we've gone off topic a little bit, as usual. But we're going to talk about our individual witchcraft practices. So, Tony...
Always start with me.
Well, it's because you're there and it just makes sense to go this way.
To you.
To me. So, you are an ancestral witch.
Yeah. I mean, I think...
Or death witch.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were talking before about how people don't resonate with certain words. I think death is a word that people are nervous about. And so, yeah, I think ancestral is a better fitting word for me. I guess my witchcraft leans into different areas, but I am most passionate about ancestral witchcraft. I think I mentioned before that I absolutely love pigeonholing people, and I love like putting a category above them. But I think it's because I have always had this gift to see people's glimmers. Have you heard of what glimmers are?
No, I don't know.
So glimmers are like the opposite of triggers.
Right.
And so I've always noticed or been quite perceptive to people's body language, or, you know, the words that they use, in seeing what lights them up, like what lights a fire underneath them, what really gets them excited. I mean, your whole face comes alive when you get excited about a new subject, you know. And I think that's, and I just have always been really good at taking notice of those things. That's why I like to categorize people quite quickly if they can't categorize themselves. Like we were talking about a friend earlier who sort of labels themselves as a certain type of witch, and I'm like, I think they're a word witch, you know. But with me, I think that you know, my glimmers are to do with my ancestral heritage, learning about the family tree. I found out a week ago, you know, just before we went on our trip to Glastonbury, that my maternal great grandmother had the gift in which she could speak with people that are passed over. And I always had a suspicion that was the case, because my mum said to me when I was younger that there was a gift on her side of the family where all the women in her side could do something that she was very afraid of. And I always imagined that was probably what it was. And she told me about, you know, having the grey woman sitting on the end of her bed and just being terrified growing up. My mum's, not quite accepted it. But it has made me feel so much more connected to my witchcraft, knowing that, being someone that is so passionate about ancestral witchcraft. Ancestral witchcraft is all about venerating your ancestors, so it's about honoring them, bringing them into your daily practice. So for me, it might be lighting a white candle in the morning on my altar, saying a prayer to them. I've really reclaimed that word prayer, because prayer feels like it's quite connected to patriarchal religion, but actually sort of a reclaiming of that word is just that constant dialogue of conversation for me with my spirit guides, or, you know, with my ancestors in particular. And just kind of like holding them in my thoughts every day, thinking about the land that they worked on, thinking about the different areas that they came from. I recently found out that I'm a descendant from Iceland, and, you know, learning more about Icelandic witchcraft as well, because they've got a really strong history. And yeah, I just come alive when I start talking about my grandparents and my great grandparents and so on. And just being really comfortable in having that open dialogue with people that have passed over. But, you know, I wouldn't say that means that there's a lot more to ancestral witchcraft, but just to explain that's the sort of thing, that's the sort of practice that I'm interested in. It's a lot to do with shadow work as well, and working through trauma and healing. And I, you know, over the years have become really comfortable with helping other people work through their trauma through shadow work as well. That's a whole subject in itself. But to kind of explain the other areas that I lean into, I always thought that I was a little bit of a green witch because of my grandparents and the way that they used to work with the land, and they used to grow all of their own vegetables and herbs and make everything. My granddad in particular was a real green thumb, and he's passed that on to my mum as well. But actually, on the way here, I was thinking to myself that actually that probably isn't the case. I'm probably more of a hearth witch, because I'm not actually very good at growing, but I am good at making. So I'm more of a kind of like, I'll make things with aromatherapy. I will do lots of harvesting. So, you know, when we're talking about foraging, and, you know, we do actually have a gardener, sorry. Because I'm not that good at growing. So, you know, we've got a lot of valerian and oregano and rosemary and stuff like that. Like, I know that you're good at growing, and we have that passion. We both have that passion for plants. But yeah, for me, I think it's more a case of the making and the harvesting and the sort of like putting the magic into whatever it is that I'm making, like the tinctures.
That is really interesting, actually, what you just said about obviously having that lean into green witchcraft, because I feel like I have that a little bit.
Yeah.
But also kind of similar to you, I like harvesting wild plants.
Yeah.
Not so much doing a lot of growing and maintaining my own.
Lazy witches, that's what we are.
Essentially. But I still am obsessed with plants.
Well, you know,
I love them.
We've been talking about herbalism. We're both really interested in herbalism. I think that I've probably got quite an extensive knowledge of herbalism as it is already. But growing is really difficult for me. And it might be something to do with how fast-paced life is, and how, you know, that was not something that was really taught to us. We were a generation that we're kind of a technology generation, really. But yeah, so I think growing is something I might need to learn. I might need to take some time to actually learn how to do that. And the only other sort of like, there are lots of other witchcraft that I'm interested in, like folk witchcraft and a little bit of elemental witchcraft, but really the only other thing other than ancestral and a bit of hearth witchcraft for me is ceremonial witchcraft, which I think again is something that you really deeply connect with because of, you know, leading. Well, we both have a process in which we kind of lead rituals, right?
Yeah.
Or ceremonies, and it's that kind of like that historical relevance, and you know, the process of sort of like cleansing, and you know, holding space, and you know, creating like an ambience in the room. That's really, really important part. It certainly is for me. It's a really important part of my witchcraft. And I would say that it's, again, like having an altar. It's a very profound connection with witchcraft. Why can't I say that today? Blah, 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 witchcraft. But, you know, it's that setting up space. And I know a lot of people kind of like throw that around online. But actually, we take a lot of care when it comes to creating space for people to speak openly about their witchcraft and to actually kind of like connect, and you know, to shut out the noise of the outside world and actually like completely focus in their attention on what it is they're trying to craft. I think ceremonial witchcraft is very, very important to me.
Yeah. So Tony and I recently went to Glastonbury. Unfortunately, Lizzie couldn't come with us, but we actually purchased this little pamphlet that we found. It was like a pamphlet book type thing, which was all handwritten, and it had all these incredible drawings in it as well. Have you read it yet?
Yeah, I read it on Friday night.
Did you?
In the bath, actually.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful, yeah, really, really interesting. And a lot of it, I was like, oh, yeah, I do that. So it was validating in a way of the way that you set up, the way that we set up our ceremonies for the Coven and our in-person retreats as well. But yeah, like you were saying, it is very important to me to spend time setting up before a ceremony. You know, sometimes I'll have, well, actually most of the time now I'll have a ritual bath before performing a ceremony. Spend time cleansing the space, setting up the space, protecting my energy. It's a lot of work, and then obviously creating the ceremony and thinking about all the different things that you want to include. But yeah,
for sure. That booklet was lovely. It was very validating, and it also made me realise how many people do events like that and don't go through that process, and then they wonder why people leave feeling really discombobulated. Is that a word? Feeling really kind of like out of sorts, and like their energy feeling off, and you know, it's really important. And I think, you know, ceremonial magic is also, there's a lot of history in it. You know, There's a lot of recorded history in the way that, I mean, we do ceremonies all the time. We always have done, even outside of witchcraft. You know, the seasonal ceremonies. You know, marriage is a ritual, really.
Yeah.
You know, divorce is a ritual. You've got all these massive, like, you can talk about that, can't you? But you've got all these massive milestones, and they are represented in these rituals that we've been doing for
generations.
Probably, centuries.
Yeah.
So again, so to kind of finish my part of that, like, I'm an ancestral witch, but ceremonial witchcraft and hearth witchcraft are very, very integrated with that as well.
But it's very interesting, isn't it? Because you can you have like your main focus, but there are always other things that you can pull in that interest you.
Yeah.
Okay, so recently discovered on this podcast,
Sandwich witch.
A sandwich.
Lizzie. I mean, I remember on the podcast, your face just lit up.
We saw a glimmer in you.
Yeah, the glimmer. The
so
glimmer.
Lovely.
That you are a solar witch. And you've gone away, actually.
I've beavered away. I've gone away and been reading, researching, looking into that. Because it was so lovely, because I'd still say I'm still quite eclectic. So what we were saying, other things feed into it. But I was looking at Solar Witch, and it really does resonate. So I now have like an altar room. I've like made
an altar room.
It's beautiful.
Wow.
It's so exciting. So the room that was once belonged to someone else, I've now cleansed that and I've turned it into my altar room, and it directly faces in the morning, the sun comes straight in. So I have like a morning sun ritual. And I was reading about it. So there's different hours of the day with Solar Witch. There's so many aspects to it. But one of the things I love, they have the sunrise, the noon sun, like midday sun, like the 4 o'clock sun, then the sunset. And you set all these different intentions with the sun. And I love that.
Well,
I
it's
just
a
think
cycle, isn't it?
it's a beautiful
Just
cycle.
like any cycle, like the lunar cycle, there's a sun cycle as
sun
well.
cycle.
I love sundown, like
Yeah,
twilight.
sunlight is my absolute favourite, yeah. And I go out now at dusk now. I'm like, I'm going to go out at dusk and sort of almost like say goodnight to like the local forest and the sun. And
Oh, I love that.
Beautiful.
really channeling it. And it's really, and I've been in kind of boss energy ever since. Sounds really weird, doesn't it? Boss energy. But that insight of, I think you're a solar witch, Lizzie. You're a sandwich. Has really helped in all aspects of my life, as we know. There's lots of things happening, but there's this like big energy, and I think and I was reading as well, sun witches are connected with Leo fire, Leo energy. I got a lot of that in my birth chart, and that's really impacting my practice massively. So I really resonate with it, and it makes complete sense. But then, exactly what's really interesting, hearing you both talk about ceremonial, when I'm partaking in one of your gorgeous ceremonies, I also take my part in that I'm respecting that this is a ceremony, that I'm going to set my space up beautifully. I'm going to have, if you're saying, you need this candle and make sure you have your cleansing tool, I'm also giving that energy back to you. So if you're the facilitator, or however you'd like to say it, I'm also partaking in that ceremony and I'm giving that energy back. Mm-hmm. So it's a full cycle. And it's really important to me. I love the ceremonies. I love them. The new moon, the full moon, all the wheel of the year. I love it so much. And it has such a major... And I feel incredible after them. Every single one, I feel grounded, nurtured. I've learned something new. It's really powerful. So ceremonial, I really love as well. And I think that's why I love with the Coven so much, because I love being with all the energies of all these amazing witches. But yeah, solar witch, sandwich, it's really resonating, and so thank you. It's like a revelation.
Well, like I said, I do like to
She
pigeonhole.
knows. She likes to pigeonhole.
But I think also just watching you on social media the other day, and you just did a little picture of yourself out in the woods with your face in the sun, and I'm like, that is where her energy is at. I was like, it's like you're properly recharging. Like
Yeah.
I would say, Steph kind of like recharges under the moon, which we'll all hear about in a minute. But like, you just are in your element when you're out walking your dogs
100%.
in the woods in the day.
I love it.
And you're really into your
drink it.
foraging as well.
Love foraging. Do you know, it's so interesting. I think hearth, same thing. I can't grow anything. I just kill all my plants. And I'm like, what am I doing to them? So exactly like you, I love to go and forage. Like I've made, oh God, what's it called? Few flower leek pesto.
Yeah,
I can never say it properly.
Few flowered. Well, some people call it few flowered garlic,
Few
but
flowered
it
garlic.
is also called few flowered leek.
And you can smell it for miles. It's this like beautiful oniony, garlicky smell. And
Is that a three-cornered leek?
No, that's different.
It's like a kind of friend of.
A pal of.
A pal of. But I've made like pesto from it. And it's all in the freezer and everything. So I love that element. Exactly the same. I love making.
So, solar witch is basically someone who lives by the sun,
By the sun.
right?
Yeah, sun cycles.
Sun cycles. So, wheel of the year
Yeah.
would be very much included in solar witchcraft.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They talk about like spring.
Any sort of sun magic,
All the
fire
sun
magic as well.
Fire magic. Love a candle.
But also you've got your deity Brigid, or Brigid,
Yeah.
she's
really
very
connected
connected to her.
Really connected. And I've made inspired by our altar workshop that we did on the Coven, I've made like a altar to Brigid, and I've put like I call it a sun lamp. I've got like a round sun lamp to her and lots of different things in honour of her. But I feel she is, like we were talking about with the candles in her hair and that fire, and she's off the smithy and making all her her swords and from the fires and everything. It really connects with me as well. So she is like the embodiment of sun for me as well. That's that sort of power. But it's funny you were saying about Wheel of the Year, because it talks about with Solar Witch as well, is springtime is about like evolving, summer is like grafting, autumn is like reflecting with the sun, and then winter is rest with the sun. So it's like, it's the same thing. It's like sunrise, noon sun, afternoon sun, winter sun.
Yeah,
Sun,
I love
sun,
it.
sun.
Sun.
Sun,
Nice.
sun.
How about you?
So, lunar witchcraft. Typically, lunar witches.
That's a new revelation, though, isn't it? Even though you've definitely been practicing it for ages.
Yes. Well, yeah. So it's sort of a new revelation. Been probably practicing as a lunar witch for a long time.
Before you carry on, what did you call yourself before that?
I think I just called myself an eclectic witch, because I think it's just so much easier to just say that, isn't it? Because when you're not really, because I still have interests in obviously lots of different things, but when I actually sat back and looked at it after you said, I think you're a lunar witch, and I was like, oh yeah. Like, it's almost like it was stupid that I didn't know that. But typically lunar witches are Cancerians as well, which I am a Cancerian, because obviously Cancer is linked, is governed by the moon. And I run all of our moon ceremonies in the Coven, or lead them rather than run. And I typically live my life via the cycles of the moon. And I have done for quite a long time now. So, and people do actually look at the cycles differently. But typically, I look at them as the new moon is new beginnings, setting intentions. A waxing moon was time to take action on those intentions that you've set. Full moon, illumination. It is also a good time for manifesting, but I typically like to let go of things on a full moon and release. Whereas a lot of people actually do that in the waning phase. But I feel like the waning phase is a time of winding down and a bit more rest and stillness. But also that people also talk about that in the dark moon phase, which is the phase just before the new moon. So yeah, that little overview of the phase. There's actually a lot more phases, but I like to look at it as 4, because I feel like as a, living in this sort of time, it's easier for me to look at it like that.
Probably easier for you to honour 4 as well, rather than honour every single part of the phase.
Because there's 8 phases. So
I don't know, you tell us. Lunar witch.
Lunar witch. So yeah, and there's lots of different aspects to it as well. Like some people say that you shouldn't have surgery 5 days before a new moon and 5 days after. Is it 5 days before a new moon or 5 days after? Yeah, I think that's when you...
They obviously have private healthcare. When it's NHS, you just take it. You take that date and hope for the best.
So there's things like that as well. I mean, I don't really look into that too much, but there's a lot of different things. Basically, living by the moon completely. There's so many different types of things, but also lunar gardening as well. I really am into that. But also there's different things with I've got really into looking at dream witchcraft recently as well, like lucid dreaming.
I love learning about lucid dreaming.
Yeah. So I really want to set up a dream altar and get more into that.
You could almost have that next to your bed, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Or even in
just
your
on the
bathroom,
bedside table.
like if you're someone that, because you do ritual baths, don't you? Like when I use a bath to get into like the meditative state, you could almost have it next to your bath, couldn't you? As well.
Yeah. So yeah, and then like we were saying, I'm also really into plants. I do love the Wheel of the Year as well. But yeah, lunar witchcraft is a huge focus for me, and I think it always has been. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Have I missed anything? Probably not. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, really, isn't it? Lunar witchcraft, obviously.
I was
The
just
moon.
thinking, I've just to slightly go off subject. I feel quite weird about the Wheel of the Year at the moment because of the climate emergency. Because it really feels like it's shifting, don't you think? Like when,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
was at my dad's in the Cotswold. That sounds so middle class. Sorry. I'm really not that middle class. I come from Woking. But my dad moved to the Cotswold from London. And, you know, over the Christmas period, started seeing snowdrops everywhere. It was really warm, like the daffodils and the tulips were coming up. It just feels like they aren't sitting where they sat for a long time. And I feel like even now we're coming into, well, we're fully in spring now, but I'm almost getting like a bit of an early summer vibe.
Yeah.
You know, so I love the seasonal changes and I love connecting with them, but I'm feeling a little bit strange, disconnected to it, because it feels like there's a shift that's happened and it's kind of nothing is happening quite when it normally does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Really weird.
It's really interesting. Last year we were talking about this. Sorry, I'm going off topic, but in on the 5th of November, for Guy Fawkes, it was normally freezing as a kid, but then
It's pretty warm,
really
yeah. I
warm.
mean,
So
October's
that's
now
interesting.
really warm. The witch's favourite month. But, you know, it would normally be sort of getting a bit colder, still sunny but cold, you know, and
Yeah,
it's
interesting.
really hot through October now, which is odd. Anyway, moving
That,
on.
that is interesting, though. It is
Yeah, it's an
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought. Yeah.
So, well, because we've just spoken about lunar witchcraft, we may as well go on to cosmic witchcraft, which kind of leans into the lunar witchcraft a bit, because cosmic witches do look into the moon phases, but they are more sort of astrology based. It's more
I
of an
prefer the term celestial.
celestial.
I think it sounds more
Sorry.
mystical. I think cosmic sounds a bit
Celestial witch.
alien-y.
The alien witch.
Spaceships and, you know, UFOs and stuff.
But yeah, it's more of an astrology based practice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which I love astrology, but it blows my mind when I try and look into all the like birth charts and the transits and
We're fully in it though. Like we're all fully in it. Like I look at my birth chart and I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
I am like point blank exactly what it says on that chart. Because I'm like a Leo sun, Aries moon, Virgo rising, and I couldn't be more typical. Like, I mean, my whole chart is fire, basically fire and a little bit of earth, bit of Scorpio in there as well.
so I'm like totally opposite to you. Like I'm like mostly water and air.
Well, I think that's why we make quite a good team. I think that, you know, kind of yin and yang in that respect. But I'm like so into astrology, but you're right, it's a minefield. Like and it's not an area that I ever want to specialise in. Really,
No,
but
me
I find
either.
it fascinating.
I'd much rather get somebody else to read my birth chart for me.
But I love those people like that are, you know, again, I'm not going to say like the social media people that are putting up infographics all the time being like, this is the time to release and let go and blah, 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 blah. You know, the people that actually look at the map and they're looking at the astrological alignment and they're going, this is what is happening in the world right now. And these are the things that are going to be happening in your conversations. It's amazing. It really
Yeah.
is amazing. And it's ancient.
Ancient.
It's so ancient. I dig it.
I dig it.
I do.
At one point, I thought, because I was getting obsessed with astrology.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember it was amazing. It was going in. I don't know if it's still there, but it was going in, and I was really connecting with it. And like you were saying, I was talking to all these different people, these great astrologers through work. There was a couple of really amazing astrologers. I was fascinated, and then I had my birth chart done with an amazing healer, and exactly like you, she was like, "Oh, well, here we are." And I'm similar to you. I'm Taurus, Sun, Leo, Moon.
Oh,
Leo
you know what's weird? I've
rising.
got so many female's the wrong word, women Taurus, like Sun Taurus in my life. So many.
So interesting.
And, you know, I went to
wow.
a festival last year. I went to Download, and 7 of them were like with me. I took a picture of them all doing like this, you know, like little Taurus. And I was like, this is wild. And you're another one.
Another one. Hello, it's me.
I thought you were a Leo. Is it Leo Moon?
Leo Moon, Leo
Right.
Rising.
I see.
See, normally I have loads of Geminis and Cancerians around me.
Not
I've
at
quite
the
a few
moment.
Scorpios as well. Those
Yeah,
spicy
Scorpio
Scorpios.
moon.
Scorpio.
Those sexy, sultry Scorpios.
Scorpio moon.
I'm Scorpio Mars or something. I can't remember if it's in my 5th house or something like that, but definitely some Scorpio in there. But you always know when a Scorpio's around, you're like, they got sassy energy.
Oh, they're sassy. I love a Scorpio.
Sassy Scorpio, yeah. Fiery. Yeah, because you said that you felt that Scorpio should be a fire sign, didn't you?
Yes, I do. I
But that
still
it's
do.
a water. It's
That's
water.
weird.
Yeah.
Those slippery suckers.
Slippery suckers. Yeah, so yeah, celestial witch or
Yeah.
cosmic witch is mainly astrology based. And yeah, love it, but I definitely wouldn't specialise.
Just we dip our toes in.
Yeah, dip our toes in here and there. I like to look at the moon, what zodiac sign it's sitting in.
Yeah.
But that's basically as far as I go. It's all moon related for me.
I do like the Cliff Notes version of astrology. So because I do our astrological updates in the Coven, but they are like a paragraph. So I'm definitely paraphrasing what's going on out there.
But I love that because it gives you a really concise
It's like a snapshot.
snapshot of it. Sometimes when you read,
It's the social media version of it.
but it gives you a really sort of immediate understanding of it, like a really lovely snapshot of.
Oh, thanks, Lizzie.
Yeah, I really like it.
Also, kitchen and hearth witchcraft are kind of the same thing, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I think kitchen witchcraft is quite a well-known one. People that, spend a lot of time in the kitchen working with herbs and plants, making food, making spells.
Baking intentions into their bread.
Lovely bread.
I do love that. If I was good at cooking.
It was a bit like what I was saying earlier about I sort of bang. Not the right word.
Good evening.
I bang the hearth witchcraft. It is similar, because hearth witchcraft is all about being at home, being in the house, making things, working your witchcraft in the home. So that might be making your own products, rather than going out and buying laundry liquid or buying like cosmetics and stuff. You might be making them all at home using natural things, which is really exciting. What else do kitchen witches do?
The energy sweeping.
Yes. Yeah. Didn't even think about that.
Yeah, sweeping out energy, negative energy out of the space.
Yeah, and I think similarly, quite a lot of home witches, hearth witches, kitchen witches, whatever you want to call them, put the crystals in the different areas of the house. I think Leonie's a bit like that, isn't she?
Yeah.
Crystals in different areas. Like often you'll put like a selenite piece over the door. You might put like sigils or symbols on the inside of the front door. You might run salt along, the doorway. To prevent, it's a protective thing, isn't it? To prevent people coming in that have bad intentions. There's lots of things you can do in the home. Actually, that's probably a whole subject. That's quite an exciting one.
That is quite an exciting one, and something I'm definitely interested in
I
learning
can see
more
it.
about.
She's like, something
glimmer.
sparking. Look,
The
look at the
glimmer.
glimmer in her eye. Love it when I say something that you're interested in.
I know. Cancerians are homebodies as well. Like we like to stay in our little.
a homebody.
We like to stay in our little comfy shell and
Your
stay
house
safe.
is comfy, to be fair. You've made a really cozy kind of like sanctuary of a space. Mine is like chaos, so I think that's why I really do much better outside of the house, in other people's houses probably. And then I think probably kitchen hearth witchcraft leans into green
I was
witchcraft.
about to say that, yeah.
you
Green
talk about
witchcraft. So, green witchcraft's all about growing plants, maintaining plants,
Botany.
foraging, making herbal-based remedies, I'd say. Probably herbalism falls under green witchcraft quite nicely. But yeah, just plant life.
Either like
I'd say.
gardening or, maybe like ecology. We might talk about that in the next episode. But, knowing your local area, what kind of plants grow, how to protect the ecosystem.
Yeah, an environmental sort of activism
probably like,
kind of
yeah.
Stance as well, I'd say. Protecting the earth.
I feel like that's also just a witchcraft thing. Though,
Yeah,
in
me
being,
too.
In guardianship of the environment.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah.
So I thought I leaned into green witchcraft for a while, and there was actually, like most people during that first lockdown that we had, I grew a hell of a lot of things.
Well, we were all doing things like baking bread and growing and, you
Yeah.
know.
And I think, well, that's probably like what stemmed a resurgence of new witches, right? But yeah, I grew a lot of vegetables, herbs, plants. I was doing a lot of foraging.
But you were given the space to do that. And one of the
Yes.
reasons why we're not very good at growing plants right now,
This time.
going to give us space to do that, is the fact that life is so chaotic. There is no time to learn how to nurture. We're barely nurturing ourselves, let alone nurturing a plant. You know, just about keeping our pets alive. Thank God we don't have children, aside from the fact that we don't really want them. But, you know, I think I think given the space to do something, you know, because the world had stopped for, you know, capitalism had stopped, we suddenly had this opportunity to learn new skills and to actually take our time with stuff. I started drawing.
Did you?
Yeah, I was drawing and painting. You know, and I'm not a baker, and I was baking banana bread like everyone was, because the easier thing to make. But you know, I was getting excited every day to cook something brand new. So I think that it was quite a good time in a way to kind of like spark new hobbies.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, Green Witch. Love that one.
Love that for you.
Love it. I love it. Definitely going to be leaning into some more green witchcraft, I think.
I think maybe the next one is like hedge witchcraft.
Yes.
Which is sort of, I sort of like associate hedge witchcraft with solitary witchcraft. Someone who's like a solitary practitioner who focuses on, you know, they don't focus on the energy of creating magic with a coven. It's all about what they create for, you know, for themselves. I think lots of stuff like lucid dreaming leans into hedge witchcraft as well. Hedge riding.
Yeah.
Similar to.
I'm going to say something really stupid now, but for a long time.
No, don't say it.
No, for a long time.
Stop following us.
Take care. This was ages ago. I thought that hedge witchcraft was like foraging hedgerows.
I don't think that's stupid. I think that's quite sweet. I think that's quite.
I thought it was to do with hedgerow witchcraft. I don't know why.
Which could be a different type of witchcraft, to be fair.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I thought the same. I thought they went along the hedgerows.
Yeah.
There is a lot to forage from the hedgerow.
I know.
There's a whole history about the hedgerow. It's
I know.
exciting.
So I guess it kind of makes sense, but yeah,
That's
it's
not
not at
stupid.
all, is it? It's not at all.
That's
that.
not stupid. No, it's not that. I think it kind of also goes into liminal witchcraft a little bit,
Yes.
wouldn't you say?
Which very excited to have the liminal witch coming into the Coven.
Yeah, she's amazing. I can't wait for that as well. What date? When is that?
29th of April.
Little plug for you.
Yeah. Come and join us.
But yeah, I think hedge riding, you know, which is, I guess, almost like a form of lucid dreaming, really. It's kind of like a meditative state in which you can move your soul almost out of your body and kind of go to another place and carry out a task, whatever that might be, good or bad. But it's a very advanced level of witchcraft. Not dissimilar to lucid dreaming, really.
Yeah. I mean, lucid dreaming takes quite a bit of practice to get into, doesn't it? Of like setting yourself up for it. I think you're supposed to, like, from what I was reading, you do a lot of I can't remember exactly what it's called. Maybe somebody can correct me in the chat. But like spending a lot of time like in the day, like looking and noticing your hands and stuff, so that when you're dreaming, you can recognize that you're dreaming and like awaken yourself in your dream, kind of thing.
A lot of people are really some people are
There's a word for it.
susceptible to lucid dreaming because they experience stuff like what's it called?
I don't know.
Darn. The word is, I had it on the edge of my tongue a second ago, sleep paralysis.
Oh, right,
So,
yes.
so I'm someone that has suffered with sleep paralysis for years since I was a child. So I'd be lying in bed and I'd be in a state of half asleep, half awake. And I'd almost see the bugs underneath the wallpaper move, you know, and the walls come in and then, you know, spiders coming down. Spiders are a big thing in my sleep paralysis. I've had the hag on my chest as well many times. My husband's even sort of noticed me doing it, but apparently people that suffer with sleep paralysis find it much easier to move into lucid dreaming. So if you're out there and you're kind of, well, hopefully you're out there, but if you're kind of someone that does suffer with those types of sleep disturbances, you should maybe look into lucid dreaming, because it might really help you with your sleep.
That's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was looking at people doing spellcraft in their dreams as well, which really fascinated me.
Wow.
So we've gone from Hedge witchcraft into liminal witchcraft, which feels quite natural.
But it's kind of a bit of a crossover.
A bit of a crossover, yeah. What's next?
Elemental,
Yeah.
which I think crystal witchcraft really kind of falls under as well, because it's part of, I would say it's the earth element, really.
Yes.
Or, a combination of elements that create crystals. But yeah, they're people that they're witches that focus on working with the elements, which kind of like makes sense to a lot of us, really, who are into the seasonal changes. We're kind of like representing the elements on our altar. We have symbols that represent the elements. But yeah, they're people that sort of, they work with the elements of earth, fire, water. Earth, fire, water,
Air.
Thank you. I always get stuck thinking of that band name, Earth, Fire, Wind, whatever it's called.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. It's a band name that I get confused with. And then some people also include spirit in that as well.
Oh, yeah.
So that's elemental witchcraft. I don't really have much to say on that, other than those people, really
No.
incorporate those different elements into their practice.
Yeah.
It might be like with ceremonial startups, we always kind of use a form of air cleansing, like voice, or what's it called? The bowls, singing bowls, kind of like sound cleansing.
Yeah.
That would be like that's like air element.
Yeah.
Often people then make sure that they're representing water on their altar as well. So that might be new moon water or full moon water.
Or shells. Or
Candles
things.
always represent fire.
Yeah.
And then earth, it might be like bringing in something like bark or literal soil
Or salt.
or salt. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of elemental witchcraft.
Yeah.
Anyone got anything else to
I was going
add
to say, I
that?
really love that in the ceremonies when you call in
The four quarters.
the four quarters
Yeah.
with that. I find that really, because that's something I'm quite interested in exploring elemental a bit more for that.
Yeah, the guardians of the four quarters. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I really, really love that, and it feels like it's a coming together of energy.
Yes.
Isn't it? It's a concentrated coming together of energy.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think I've incorporated that more now into my altar room of bringing in different elements of that, of fire. And I quite like as well if with the candle, if you blow out the candle using the smoke as the air symbol as well, like incorporating that all in. But I'm really fascinated. And when you were calling in the four quarters, I was like, oh, this is juicy. I love
It's
this.
like there's a feeling of strength, really, isn't
Yeah,
it? It's like
power.
your Zelda moment with your
Yeah.
big saber-tooth amethyst.
yeah.
I really want you to do that in our ceremonies. Dianic witchcraft as well, which is probably the most obsessed part of witchcraft with the divine feminine. We get a lot of that in America, I think probably in the California area. But they tend to be people that are incorporate the maiden mother crone, the three faces, that journey of womanhood from child all the way up to kind of like decrepit old hag, wise, which we might all be in that phase of our lives, decrepit old hag phase. Yeah, and drawing on those energies from those three sort of like seasons of life. So we would be in the maiden era right now, moving into the mother, maiden being spring, sprouting of new life, and then, into mother, which is the more kind of like delivery of your projects and the kind of like full blooming part of the year. And then later we'll be going into the crone phase, probably in around about October, November, December, January, which is the death phase of the year. And it's all about sort of like being introspective and reflective and thinking about the wisdom that you've developed through the year.
Yeah.
Love that.
Love it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Grey witchcraft. I don't know too much about
don't
this,
know.
but what I understand is that grey witches work with light and dark magic. That's all I understand about it.
They sound very balanced to me.
Yeah. You're probably a bit of a grey witch, aren't you?
I don't think I'm definitely more on the darker side. And keep your white stuff.
But yeah, if you guys at home know anything more about some of the witchcraft types we're talking about, then please do let us know in the comments, especially grey witch and I think elemental magic or
Or
witchcraft.
maybe just let us know what kind of a witch you associate, what path you associate with. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Is that all of them?
No, there's loads more. I mean, we can go through the rest of them probably quite quickly, but I mean, there's folk witchcraft, which I love. I love folk witchcraft, which is more about witchcraft that's been handed down through the generations. You might have inherited it from your family or from your village or your community.
Would hereditary witch thing?
No, I think hereditary witch, a little bit, but it's also ancestral witchcraft as well.
I was going to say Celtic. Would that tie in? Celtic, which is again like passing down of generation.
A little bit. I think the thing is with folk witchcraft, I think that it's easily identifiable by the types of tools. So you can almost tell someone that's kind of like really into raw materials, handmade divination tools rather than sort of like store-bought or, given from someone else. Like, it'd be someone who's really interested in making their own divination tools. They might make their own runes. They might make their own stain. Is that what they're called? And athame.
Right.
I think it's a stain, isn't it? With a...
Oh, yeah.
It's like a staff.
Right.
I might have said that word wrong. And athame, they might make... like throwing bones or throwing wood and stuff like that. You can normally tell when you go into a household of a folk witch, but just by the way that their house looks. It's very rustic and kind of like, like I said, all natural materials. But it is very much, I think it's a bit sort of like folklorish as well. Like you have a lot of folklore from your own area. I mean, I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's really
cool.
interesting. Yeah, definitely.
Being from, East Sussex, there's a lot of folklore as well.
Yeah, I bet there's some interesting ones there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Juicy.
Sea witchcraft,
yes,
which is
of
another one which I
course.
really like. These people are more working with, the element of water.
See, I feel quite connected to that.
What, Cancerian?
Yeah, and also I love the ocean.
Yeah,
Obsessed
well, I
with
mean,
the
I don't
ocean.
think I could ever not live by the sea.
Yeah, I wish I lived by the sea.
I just love being in natural water. It feels so held and it's so kind of anti-inflammatory and just, really calming.
Like when we were at the White Spring in Glastonbury and we were just sat listening to the water.
Oh, amazing.
It was just such a beautiful experience.
We both really wanted to get into the pool.
I really want to get in the pool
Yeah.
with nothing on.
Same. I really want to get into the pool naked too.
I really do. I want to be submerged.
Liberation.
I want, I
I want to let it all hang out and cleanse me.
Yeah.
Let's do it, girls.
We did get in. We
did.
pulled our trousers up and we got in. I actually really
freezing.
struggled with the temperature.
It's so cold.
I'm very sensitive to temperature and it was so cold. It was actually painful and I was trying to... I don't think I'm someone that's very good with stress. And I think that stepping in and being in that... You were amazing. Like dealing with that extreme... temperature change was a shock to my system and I was trying to meditate through it and I remember saying to Steph, I don't think I can stay in anymore.
No.
But I definitely want to try and get my whole body in.
Yes, let's do it.
We did see a lady go in and completely submerge herself, even her head as well.
Yeah, she was cool. She was like a shield maiden.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hard as nails.
And I think someone asked her, is it cold? And she was like, yeah, it's really cold.
Nipples as hard as nails.
And so for those that don't know what we're talking about, White Spring is somewhere you can visit in Glastonbury. And Tony and I visited for the first time at the weekend, last weekend, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you can visit the White Spring, which is it's very...
almost like a temple
Temple,
underground.
yeah. There's lots of different... like altars set up for different sorry, I can't get my words out.
There's a free space to go into, which is amazing. You're not allowed any photography. You kind of walk down inside it and it's like being in a womb because it's dark and candles everywhere, candelabras, there's like 3 stepped pools, one big central pool, and people were chanting, people were kind of sat praying, people looking at altar spaces. It was amazing, like lots of smoke cleansing in there.
Yeah.
The chanting was amazing.
Yeah,
It was absolutely amazing.
There was a man singing at one point as well. And when we first walked in, I had an intense emotional reaction as we went in. I just
What was
felt
the feeling?
completely overwhelmed. My heart felt like it was going to explode, and I just wanted to cry. And Tony looked at me and went, "Are you okay?"
I felt like the air was really close in there, like there were lots and lots of souls in the room.
Yes.
It didn't feel like because it kind of an echoey space, you know. There weren't that many people down there, and I felt like I was in a crowded room.
Wow.
Not negative at all, but it
Loads of
definitely,
presence.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, I kept so we closed our eyes at one point and sort of had a little meditative moment, and I just kept visualizing lots of ancestral sort of people sat around in robes, and
Wow.
it was really strange.
For me, it was like a wellspring of wisdom. It was like this pool was full of like secrets or something.
Yeah.
The secrets of all these, generations past, and the hardships, and also the beautiful things that they'd learnt. And it was just, it was very overwhelming.
Yeah, it was very.
And it's funny because people normally talk about Chalice Well. They normally
That's the
talk,
one I've
sorry,
heard
Chalice
more
Spring.
about. Yeah.
Where you can go and you can kind of you can put your feet in as well. You drink from the spring. It tastes like blood, by the way.
Oh.
Very, very iron-rich water. It gave me a tummy ache.
So the water at White Spring is calcite rich, I think. It's because you can drink the water. We missed that, but there's somewhere you can drink the water from outside.
Oh, that's a shame. I would have liked to have got some water from there.
Yeah, but obviously Chalice Well, like you said, is very iron rich, and it does taste like blood. But there's only one place that you can drink from at the well. You can't drink all the water. There's
No,
just
it's
an
just a spot.
actual spot, and I think it's regularly tested water. So
Oh, good.
yeah.
Otherwise, I got poisoned.
But that is also another beautiful experience. So it's interesting because it's obviously like the White Spring is underground, and then obviously Chalice Well is on top of the ground, and
And are people just allowed to go in to the water?
you can't really submerge yourself into the water, but
No.
you can. We took our socks and boots off and submerged our feet in the water. Again,
and the brick
it
is
was cold.
it's stained red from the iron content.
Whoa.
So it's really interesting, and the actual spring looks like a big vagina. It does, though. It properly does.
It does.
Lots of flower offerings and stuff like that. It's lovely.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. But yeah, that's in Glastonbury if you ever want to go and visit. So next witch, what have we got?
Well, there's sex witchcraft, which I think is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
People drawing their power off of intimately connecting with one or more than one people. I don't really have a lot to say on this subject. I have a book at home that I haven't read, but it's not really something that's I've been particularly drawn to at all.
No.
But there's a long history of sex witchcraft as well, especially in the sort of occult side with Aleister Crowley and everything. We're sort of, there are so many other ones, but I guess we didn't really touch on Wiccan, which is probably one of the most popular. And it's probably a type of witchcraft that is a gateway drug into.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I first started researching.
Yeah, it's probably what I first started
Yeah.
researching as well. And I think that it was made popular by Gerald Gardner.
In the 70s or late 60s?
I think earlier than that, yeah.
Late 60s.
Someone who wanted to make, it's funny, people either love him or they don't love him. And he wanted to kind of make it so that it was really secret, like a secret club, but also wanted the fame. So it was like, you have to practice Wiccan for like a year and a day before you can actually be, what's the word, into the...
Initiated.
Thank you.
Right.
Initiated into the club, into the Wiccan club.
Wiccan club.
And I think they used to have meetings in the Atlantis bookshop in London in the basement. That's kind of where it all started. But Wicca is it's a religion,
Derived from paganism
under the
And-
pagan umbrella.
and incorporating light witchcraft.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules. It's
I was
very
gonna say it
rule
feels
heavy.
very rule
The
heavy.
Wiccan Reedy. Is it Reedy?
Wiccan Reedy.
Is it? Yeah, it's Rede. That's what it's called, Wiccan Reedy.
Oh, I don't know.
I think that encompasses the rule of 3.
Oh yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't even know that was a word, so I've learned something. But you know, it's all about the elements. You know, like the Wiccan symbol is the pentacle. You know, the circle with the star in it, and that represents the different elements. They usually are quite connected to the wheel of the year. They believe in doing no harm to anyone. Like I said, it's a religion, so witchcraft isn't a religion. So I guess, you know, it's not for me, basically.
Because
But
aren't their ceremonies are quite like formulaic? Is that right? They're
very formulaic.
Very formulaic. You have to follow a certain.
I do think that there is like a modern style of Wicca.
Well, Wicca is modern.
I know that, but there's an even like moderner. It's
not
not even a
modern
word. But I think people are taking on probably aren't necessarily joining Wiccan covens and being initiated properly, but are taking on the bits that they're interested from Wicca.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
I think that it's made witchcraft popular online. Wicca, you know, Wicca is accessible, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know? And I think that you get a lot of kind of like modern witchcraft online that is Wicca focused. And I think that's kind of what Gerald Gardner wanted. He wanted it to be accessible, but not.
Yeah.
He wanted people to know about it. He wanted to know what the practices were, but he wanted it to be hard to get into the club.
Quite exclusive.
Very exclusive.
But then you
yeah.
could be, surely you could be a solitary Wiccan.
You can, and he actually wrote that book,
Oh, yeah, of
Oh,
course.
right.
which is probably one of the first books I ever owned, you know.
Yeah.
And now I don't connect to it at all.
No.
But, you know, we'll probably have a lot of people on here who are Wiccan that are listening.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if it's your religion, that's absolutely fine. It's just my witchcraft isn't a religion. But I think a huge percentage of people that would call themselves a witch are Wiccans, are Wiccan witches.
Yeah. So leading on, how do you know what type of witch you are?
Well, I think we've covered all of the main ones, haven't
We've covered
we?
all of the main ones, yeah.
I think it's, you know, we talked about it in the first podcast with you, Lizzie, about like being a solar witch. I think it's a process of trying things on and seeing what feels like it fits. You know, we're all refining what we do all the time, and you know, leaning into a path that makes sense to us. So I think it's just you know, if something excites you, learn a little bit about it and try and practice a little bit and see if that feels like a good path for you. And also don't feel so rigid that you can't change your mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, you know, as we've all said, we're all interested in lots of different things still. But at the moment in my practice, my focus is Lunar Witchcraft, and same with you, it's Ancestral, same with you, Sandwich. Sun Witch is what we're trying to say. But yeah, you can explore lots of different paths and find out which is right for you. And I think you'll know. And like you said, the glimmer, getting excited about, you know, different modalities and things you're interested in.
It's also connecting with who you are as a person.
Your
like
soul.
Your personality.
Your being.
Your being, your soul. But it is that, and I think the more that I practice witchcraft and connect more in with my intuition, and like I was saying about this boss feeling that I'm starting to feel, it all then starts to resonate, and it's a natural, your taste or your practice becomes natural.
Yeah. It's like accentuates
who
you are.
Absolutely, yeah. It's connecting to your
core being.
Your core personality.
Your true authentic self.
Your true authentic self. And then it's natural. It's like a natural progression into it.
Like adulthood.
Like adulthood.
Yeah.
You know, you've tried on all the things.
And I'm definitely not an adult.
You've hopefully worked out who you are in your 30s.
But you're constantly evolving, I think, anyway, as a person. So, and it's the same with witchcraft. So yeah, I think we've come to the end of our episode, all about different types of witches. So thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and like this episode, and the podcast, obviously. if you identify with any of the witchcraft practices we've spoken about today, let us know in the comments, or if there's any we've missed, please do let us know. We'd love to hear from you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Embracing Magic podcast. Was that the tune?